We've all got these powerful little computers right on our pockets and on our wrists every single day. They track our steps, they track our sleep, but can they really track and, more importantly, manage our stress?
It's a huge question, right? I mean, on one hand, you've got this incredible promise of making mental wellness tools accessible to literally everyone. But on the other, there are some pretty serious questions we need to be asking. So let's dive in and break down the technology, the science, and, yeah, the hidden risks.
All right, so first up, what's even in this new digital stress toolkit? It's a landscape that is just exploding with innovation, offering all these different solutions right at our fingertips.
Okay, so the one you probably know best is the wearable stress monitor. Think about your Apple Watch, your Fitbit, you name it. They are constantly collecting data, and then they use these pretty advanced algorithms and AI to give you what they say are real-time insights into just how stressed you are. They'll even ping you and say, hey, maybe you should do some breathing exercises.
And then you've got something that feels a little more like science fiction: virtual reality. Companies are building these incredibly immersive virtual worlds. You can be in a serene forest or doing a guided meditation on a beach, and it's all designed to help you just disconnect and relax. And it's a really powerful way to create a sense of escape and calm.
And then, of course, there are the AI-powered apps. You've probably heard of some of them, like Wobot or Wiza. They use chatbots to give you personalized support. They actually use techniques from things like cognitive behavioral therapy to help you manage your stress and anxiety. It's super convenient, but as we're about to see, that convenience, it comes with some pretty big questions.
All this sounds pretty cool, right? But it kind of begs a really important question. How does a little piece of plastic and silicon on your wrist actually know when you're stressed out? Let's peel back that curtain and take a look at the science. So here's the thing you have to remember. Stress isn't just a feeling in your head, it's a physiological response. Your body's sending out all these clear signals, and these gadgets are basically designed to listen in on that conversation. So the question is, what signals are they actually listening for? Now, you might think it's all about how fast your heart is beating, but it's way more nuanced than that. The single most important metric is something called heart rate variability, or HRV. What it's measuring are the tiny millisecond-long variations in time between each heartbeat. Now, high HRV is a good thing. It means your nervous system is flexible and resilient. A low HRV, on the other hand, well, that can be a super clear sign of stress.
And this is just a brilliant way to understand why HRV is so important. Think about your nervous system like it has a gas pedal and a brake. The sympathetic system, that's the gas pedal. It revs you up for fight or flight when you're stressed. The parasympathetic system is the brake. It's what cools you down so you can rest and digest. A healthy high HRV means you're switching smoothly between the gas and the brake. But stress just slams on that gas pedal, and that reduces your variability.
Now, beyond HRV, these gadgets are tracking a whole suite of other signals. They measure something called electrodermal activity, which is basically a fancy way of saying changes in how much you're sweating, a classic stress indicator. They're also looking at your skin temperature, which actually tends to drop during stress, plus your breathing rate and sometimes even blood pressure.
But here's what's really interesting. Not all of these signals are created equal. Research clearly shows that HRV and that sweat response, EDA, are the heavy hitters. They have really high accuracy and precision when it comes to detecting stress. But what about your simple heart rate, the one we all think about? Turns out, it's actually one of the less accurate indicators. So that means a device that only tracks your pulse is missing a huge part of the story.
Okay, so we've seen the promise, we've looked at the science, but now we need to talk about the peril. Because when we invite AI into our mental health, we might also be inviting a ghost in the machine, a whole set of hidden ethical risks that we absolutely cannot ignore.
A recent study from Brown University dug deep into this, and honestly what they found is kind of chilling. AI chatbots will often use these phrases like, "I see you" or "I understand," and while that sounds helpful on the surface, researchers are warning it creates what they call deceptive empathy. The bot doesn't actually see you or understand you, and this false connection can be pretty harmful, making you feel heard without giving you the real support you actually need.
In fact, the researchers identified 5 major categories of these ethical violations. For example, the bots would just give out one-size-fits-all advice, completely ignoring a person's unique situation. They'd create that deceptive empathy we just talked about. They could show bias, and most dangerously, they could completely fail when it comes to crisis management.
And this is where it gets really, really serious. The study found that when users mentioned things like suicide ideation, some of these chatbots responded with just indifference, or they even denied service.
Think about that. In a moment of absolute crisis, the very tool that's designed to help just fails. This isn't a small bug, it's a critical safety breakdown.
And this brings us to the core problem here, doesn't it? Accountability. A human therapist is held to incredibly strict ethical standards by governing boards. There are real consequences for malpractice. But AI chatbots? Right now, they basically exist in a regulatory Wild West. There are no established frameworks to hold them or the companies that make them accountable when they cause real harm.
So, where does all this leave us? You've got this incredible potential on one side and these very real, very scary dangers on the other. The path forward probably isn't about rejecting technology altogether, but it is about creating smarter tools and, this is the most important part, becoming wiser users. Look, we can't lose sight of the fact that AI could genuinely reduce barriers to mental health care for millions of people. That is huge. But the research makes it absolutely crystal clear this power must be balanced with thoughtful design, with regulation, and with human oversight. We can't just unleash these tools and hope for the best.
So what can you do right now? Here's a simple 3-step guide. First, understand the science. Know that a good stress tracker should be looking at things like HRV, not just your pulse. Second, recognize the risks. Be a critical user. Remember that AI empathy isn't real empathy. And finally, and this is the big one, use this tech as a tool, not as a therapist. It can be a fantastic supplement, but it is never a replacement for real professional human connection.
And all of this leaves us with one final crucial question. This technology is only going to get smarter, more powerful, and more integrated into our lives. There's no stopping that. The real challenge for all of us is to make sure that as our tech gets smarter, we're also getting wiser in how we choose to use it.